doing Elizabeth Waffle. She was born February 3rd, 1821. Her nickname was Bessie. She had 7 siblings. She lived with her mom, her dad, her 7 siblings, and her 4 aunts. She was a kind and obedient girl, and Elizabeth lost her interest in medicine after her teacher brought in a bullseye. Oh, and she lived in England. Adulthood. Went to a medical school, taught a school in Henderson, Kentucky. Traveled to England to seek further training. Had eye disease that blinded one of her eyes. Was teaching music at Asheville, North Carolina against slavery. One of her greatest wishes was to be accepted into a Philadelphia medical school. Got accepted by Harbor College in New York in 1847. People looked weird at her. In 1907, she retired from an injury, and she couldn't really go back to it. She lost interest in medicine again because her friend got sick. In 1910, she died at home. Major accomplishments. Went to medical school. She published about typhoid fever in 1849 in the Buffalo Journal as first woman. Became first woman to have her name placed in the British Medical Register. She worked at Florence Nightingale in a hygiene. In 1853, opened small dispensary. First woman to get medical degree in the United States. She promoted education for women. She was a doctor. This is her family. In 1847, in 1875, became professor of gynecology at London School of Medicine. And she became a music teacher as a major accomplishment to pay for her medical school. Reasons why the person should be admired. She helped other people accomplish what women could not accomplish before. She promoted education for women. She was a school teacher, supported her family. She wanted women to have a female doctor. She did not give up to get into college after getting rejected many times. First woman to publish an article in the United States. She lectured other females on importance of educating girls. Organized nurses during Civil War. She worked as music teacher so she could pay for medical school. She was against slavery. And where I looked it up was And extra information, Elizabeth's father wanted girls to have same education as boys.
My presentation today is Roberto Clemente. He was born August 18th, 1934. He was poor and couldn't buy anything. He loved baseball, and he never struck out. So he couldn't use a baseball or a baseball bat, so he had to use a broomstick and tin cans. He and his dad, Melchior, had a job, and it was cutting sugar canes. Roberto was working so much, he got more money because he always worked 7 days a week. When he was an adult, he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Roberto got married to a woman named Vera Cristina Zabala. He won a game against the Dodgers, and he was traded. He was one of the best players on the Dodgers. On September 23rd, 1972, the earth shook in Nicaragua, the biggest earthquake in Nicaragua. Roberto heard what happened and he was going to go on a plane to deliver some food, water, and supplies. The plane crashed because the plane was 20 years old and the engine exploded because a wrench got stuck in it. He died in the crash, but the body was never found. Okay. Major accomplishments. He won the national championships in 1972. He won 12 Golden Glove Awards. He also won the World Series in 1971, and he made lots of generous donations. In September 1972, he made 3,000 hits, and he got to be on a major league team. Yeah, he got to be on his major accomplishment was he got to be on a major league team because it was his dream. And he was the first Latino inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Reasons why this person should be admired. He did his best and persevered. He won the national championships for his team. He was so good that he got to be on a major league team when he was only 14. Even though he died, it was still the right thing to go and deliver supplies, food, and water to Nicaragua. Even though he didn't have the right things for baseball, he still practiced with a broomstick and tin cans, showing that he was committed. He won 12 Golden Glove Awards. Thanks for listening to my presentation.
My presentation is on Julia. She was born May 1788. She lived in a valley that was high up in the Rocky Mountains that is now the state of Wyoming. She was 7 years old at the beginning of the book. She had black hair going down to her shoulders. She had brown eyes and brown skin. Her mother called her Bird Girl because she was tiny. Her older brother's name was Travels Fast. He was several years older than her. He would always go on hunts, but her whole village would say that she couldn't go hunting with her brother because she's too tiny. So one night she snuck off into the wilderness so that she could go hunting with her big brother. Bird Girl would always have logs, and she would carve it out with a tomahawk, which is another name for axe or a bow and arrow or a knife. And she would make wooden toys as well. One day, her tribe was moving, then all of a sudden, it was a war. Bird Girl, Owl Feather, and Willow Girl was taken from the enemy, and Sacagawea was sold to the white man, Toussaint Charbonneau. Toussaint Charbonneau made Sacagawea his wife. And even though Sacagawea was pregnant with a baby boy, she still went on the Lewis and Clark expedition. Sacagawea named her son Jean Charbonneau, but Clark nicknamed Power Pony. In May 4th, 1805, her boat flipped over while she was calm and quiet while she had a lot of stress on her. Sacagawea traded her boat for horses. When they were riding along the journey, she saw her old village in August 1805. On January 6, 1816, they thought that if they started the journey, they should finish it and let her continue. Sacagawea was best known for being the only woman on the Lewis and Clark expedition into America's West. She could translate to Hadassah for Charbonneau. Her presence was valuable to the Lewis and Clark expedition because if she met a tribe, she could tell the tribe that Lewis and Clark would bring peace instead of war. The way of the paths within the lands was very good for Sacagawea because she lived in the wilderness. She had explored routes and lands, and it brought her way back home to her Shoshone tribe. She was devoted and indestructible. So when she saw her tribe, her older brother travels fast was the leader because her mother and father were killed by the enemy. When she was younger, the boys in her tribe were very young, and all the dogs were jumping over the river and the little boys. One of the dogs' back paws hit her little brother in the head, and her little brother fell into the water. Sacagawea never knew how to swim, but she jumped in and she saved her little brother. Then later on in the book that I read, Sacagawea is brave because she saved her grandmother from a rattlesnake. Because they were up on a hill, Sacagawea was at the bottom of the hill collecting sticks, and her grandmother was on top collecting sticks also. And so there was a rattlesnake sleeping right next to the sticks, and her grandmother didn't notice, and the snake struck at her, but hopefully the snake did not bite her. And so her grandmother fell to the ground, and she broke her ankle. Sacagawea heard when her grandmother fell, and she ran up the hill, and she took her tomahawk, and she hit the snake in the head.
Yeah.
John Charbonneau, who would soon become America's youngest explorer. When her brother would go hunting, they would use bows and arrows and tomahawks. And what they would kill is foxes, buffalo, deer, and bears. And when they would kill them, they would hang it up like this, and they would use it to make their clothes, to use it for their teepees, or to use it for food to save for the winter time.